Hey guys, Joey here from Joey's Myoko. We're at ESS Board Store in Jindabyne, Australia, and today we're going to talk to you about 5 different powder boards so you have an epic time in Japan. Alright, powder boards. So there's lots of different powder boards on the market, and they come in different shapes and sizes and flexes. But just to give you a good idea, all powder boards in general are designed to float in powder. So a lot of them are going to be wider, a lot of them are going to have a bigger nose and a shorter tail. So that way you don't have to do all the work yourself. The board is going to naturally sink and the nose is naturally going to float for you in powder. Alright, let's talk about a few that we chose for you. First on the list, this is Koola, the Transition Finder. What I really like about the Koola Transition Finder is you can ride it in all mountain and it performs really well in powder. So if you're looking for a board that's kind of a crossover, you don't want to go full-blown only powder board, the Transition Finder from Koola is a really good idea. So let me quickly tell you a little bit about the tech. So the Koola Transition Finder has got camber in it. So the camber doesn't run the entire length of the board. It runs from the back inserts to the front inserts. So the nose is free and the tail is free. However, you have camber throughout the whole rest of the board in the middle. So that's going to give you a lot of drive and it's going to be really stable. The flex of this board is quite stiff. So this is a great board to be able to ride fast with and feel really stable. So this is a perfect all mountain and powder board. So maybe you want a board that you're going to ride in Australia and take to Japan. I wouldn't look past the Koola Transition Finder. So this also comes in small sizes and large sizes. So that's going to depend on your size and your weight and your ability. Next on the list is Burton. So the Burton Channel Surfer. This is a brand new board for Burton this year. Check it out. Super cool. Okay, so this is a new board to the line this year. Similar to your Koola, the flex is quite stiff. So this is a stiffer flexing board, so it's going to be nice and stable. What's different from the Koola is you're going to be able to see it's got a big swallowtail here on the bottom. So this board in deep snow is definitely going to float easier than your Koola. The profile on this board is also different. So you have a flat profile here, so no camber. So we have flat that runs from binding insert to binding insert, or channel to channel I should say. And then you have an early rise in the tip and a very small early rise in the tail. So this board is going to be, just like it says, more surfy. Tail of this board is going to be a lot looser and compared to your Koola. The flat of this board is going to allow the board to turn with ease. It's not going to bite, it's not going to grab. But because this board's so surfy, it's not going to be as aggressive on the ground. So I would consider this more of a powder only board. So if you already have an all-rounder and you're searching for a powder board for Japan, I think this is a really good option from Burton. Next on the list, the Nitro Slash. So Nitro Slash, I feel, is quite an underrated board from Nitro. The Nitro Slash is part of the Quiver series. You guys probably have heard of Quiver before. So this is one of the many Quiver boards that Nitro has. And this one's called the Slash because it's designed to slash. Easy. Okay, so how does this differ from the last 2 boards? It's softer and flex, so you have a little bit more give here. So if you're someone that doesn't like a really stiff board, it's going to be a little bit more playful. It's going to be a little bit more agile, and it's going to be kind of easier to navigate the bumpier terrain, right? You're going to be able to duck and weave this board a little bit easier. You can see the shape of it. You have a nice, big, long nose that's quite wide, and a smaller, narrower tail. So we call that taper. So when a board's wider at the tip and then gets narrower as the board goes down, we call that taper. So the taper is what allows this board to float well, considering that the nose is wider and the tail is skinnier. So the profile on this board is cam out. So camber from binding insert to binding insert with the rocker and the tip and tail. Very little bit of rocker. Nitro doesn't have a lot of rocker in their boards, they have more camber. The reason why Nitro has a little bit of rocker and camber with the softer flex is because this is how they can give you the best of both worlds. They give you a camber board that's softer, so that way it's going to hold really nice when you're carving. The fact that it's softer and flex, you're going to be able to keep the tip up easy, and you're going to be able to twist the board torsionally. And the taper, being wider at the front, narrower at the back, is going to allow the board to float. So this one definitely lives up to its name. I've ridden this one many times in Japan, Nitro Slash. So if you want a board similar concept to the Koola Transition Finder, kind of a do-it-all, let me ride this in Australia, let me also ride it in Japan in powder, I think this is another really good option as well. Alright, next on our list, Jones Mind Expander. Jeremy Jones and Chris Christensen, they got together to create a lot of really cool boards from Jones. So this is one of them. This one is called the Mind Expander. If you guys don't know, it used to be a full rocker board. Now they decided to add camber. So the reason why they've added camber to the board, camber goes from binding to binding, rocker tip, rocker tail, so that way the board is more stable on hard path when you're getting to the powder. And that way it feels stiffer. So when you're landing a little bit back seat, you're less likely to wash out because it's got camber now. It's going to help you put that board down. This is again the characteristic of a do-it-all, all mountain and powder board. They definitely make a few more deep only powder boards, but from someone who spends a lot of time in Australia and Japan, I know how great it is to have a board that crosses over. So again, this sits in your crossover category. You're going to be able to ride this all over mountain, whether it's parachute or thread bow, and also get in the trees in Japan. Next on the list, Solomon Volet HPS. Okay, you can see straight away with this Solomon board, we got a swallowtail. Anytime you see a swallowtail on the board, you know for sure it's a powder board, but this one is dedicated for powder. Again, why we have this swallowtail is so that tail is going to sink in the soft snow and that nose is going to float. This board also has a lot of taper to it, so the nose width is wider, tail width is narrower. That's also going to help the board float. Flex, I'd say a good medium flex, so it's in between your Nitro Slash and your Transition Finder. So it's a good happy medium flex, not too stiff, not too soft. And again with the profiles, we're looking at camber. So camber is going to run through this board from contact point to contact point with a touch of early rise in the tip. So again, why do we want camber? Well, camber is really good for edge hold. It's really good for pop, stability, edge hold. So even though it's a powder board, every once in a while you might hit some ice underneath. So it is great to still have your camber in there. All these boards are made to be able to withstand all mountain riding and powder riding. The ones with the bigger swallowtails are more specifically for powder, and the ones with more of a normal tail are great crossover boards. Alright guys, that quickly gives you 5 great snowboards you can check out when you're heading over to Japan. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments on these boards. If you're over in the Myoko, Japan area, please come check us out at Joey's Myoko. They have all of these boards and many more in the demo fleet. Sometimes you got to get in there to try them before you buy the right one. We'll see you guys in Japan. See you next time.